Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your channel of Math and Engineering Made Easy. Today, we are going to start part 2 of the SAT Algebra 2 test. The second one I'm posting, as I said, because the first one, they were small prints and they were not very clear. So here we have 8 questions and each one is worth 2 credits. The first one starts with a probability problem. And it says seniors at a high school were surveyed to see if they preferred a hoodie or a jacket for Spirit Day, and if they wanted a design on the back or on the front. So the survey results are summarized here. And as you can see, I have 100 students altogether. There are 40 and 60. And it asks you determine the exact probability that a randomly selected senior from the survey preferred a hoodie, given that the senior wanted a design on the back. So what's the meaning of given? Given meaning it's a conditional probability. Okay, so it's as if I'm saying I don't care about the front because I'm selecting a senior from those who like a design on the back. So I can just exclude the bottom row, not think about it at all, because I know that the person I'm selecting is from those who said we like the design on the back. So really, I'm selecting 1 out of 60 students. 45 plus 15 is 60 students. And the probability that out of these 60, a student preferred a hoodie, it means 45 out of 60. So that probability, so you would say the probability of a hoodie given back design equals the probability, let's call that H and that's that B, okay? So B and H. So it's the probability of back and hoodie given the probability of the condition, okay? Meaning the probability of back. So it equals 45 over 60. Notice that both of them are divisible by 15, so you get 3/4. Oh, so this part you have to include. Oh, okay. You write the formula. It's not multiple choice anymore. Okay, the second problem. Sketch g of x equals negative x cubed. Don't you have a graphing calculator? I don't understand. Why do they ask you? But anyways, let's assume we don't have the calculator. We know that, first of all, since the leading coefficient is negative, then the right end behavior is that the graph is going down, right? Positive goes up, negative goes down, the right-hand side or the end behavior on the right. And because it's a cube, the degree is 3, which is odd, and odd starts with O, like opposite. So the left ends in the up. So the graph ends going up on the right, going down on the left. Okay, and then we know that the roots would be plus or minus anything. This is 1, so you are dividing by 1. But 36, the factors of 36, of course, are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 12, 18, and 36. Usually, if I don't know, I will pick something in the middle, and you will see why I will do that. So I will pick the 6. It's in the middle, roughly. I mean, it doesn't, sometimes it's an even number, so you pick one of the two. And you can use synthetic division. So you have I know you don't need that since you have a calculator, so you can get that right. But I'm talking in general. There is no x, so I replace it with 0, and then I have a 36. And I check the 6. I can check the 6 or the -6. So let's start, let's check the 6. I'm sorry, I was going to do long division for some reason. So I enter -1 times 6 is -6, which means -13 times 6 is -78. And you see that -78 again would be a huge negative number. So this is negative. If all of them are negative, it means that the highest positive integer is less than 6. And it seems like it's much less than 6. If you multiply that, you get what? -468, which means you will end up with -432. So let's cross out these and pick one in the middle of those, either the 2 or the 3. So I don't know, let's pick the 2. I wrote them up. I usually -1, -7, 0, 36. And I have the 2. So I get -2, -9, -18, -18, -36, 0. Yes, a 2. So I know 2 is one of the roots, which reduces the degree of the equation from a third degree to a second degree. Notice all of them are negative, so I can multiply by -1, and I say x squared plus 9x plus 18 equals 0. Okay, so I need two values that when I multiply, I get 18. When I add, I get 9. So that's 6 and 3, definitely. So x plus 3, x plus 6 equals 0. So x equals -3, and x equals -6. And here are the three roots, 2, -3, and -6. I know that at x equals 0, the g of x, g of 0 equals 36. So now I can start plotting. You don't have to draw to plot it by scale, for example, because that's a third degree parabola. It's almost impossible to do that, right? But let's see, roughly, I mean, we can get, we need -6 is the maximum, right? So you can say 4, 6. Okay, so -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, and then 1, 2, we need up to 3, let's say 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for the x, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6 for the negative part. And then I know 36, so maybe I will change the scale for the g and move by what, tens? So 10, 20, 30, 40. And then -10, -20, -30, -40. So I have a 0 and 36, one of the point. I have 2 and 0. I have -3 and 0, and I have -6 and 0. I know, so this is coming down, as we said. So it's up on the left, down at the right. So it goes down and then up and then down. Maybe I want to find out, for example, at -5 or at -4, what is the value here? So if I say g of -5, for example, use a calculator, of course. This is negative, so that's 125. and 25. So this is negative 175 plus 36. So negative 50. So that's negative 14. Maybe at negative 4, I get 64 minus 112 plus 36. So that's 100. So negative 12, almost the same height. So my graph is coming from up like that, and then goes up to negative 36 to positive 36. Of course, when you do calculus, you will see how much easier it would become. And then it goes down to 2 and then to infinity. And that would be g of x. Okay, so the most important part are the roots, the y-intercept, meaning x-intercept and y-intercept, and maybe 1 point. So we know, do we go very deep down, or it's just crossing, or somewhere in the middle? So just to make it looks nice. Okay, again, you have a calculator, so there is no reason to do that. I just wasted your time, but maybe you will need it in some other type of problems. If you don't have a calculator, well, that would be tough, but oh, I'm sorry, minus 7x squared plus 36. I can do my window, say, going from negative 10 to 4 or 5. Y minimum, you can go, say, from negative 20 to positive 40. I want to go above that and see how it looks like. And sure enough, it looks very similar. Of course, this is more acute and going up faster, this going down. Okay, so basically, that's number 26. Sorry, it took a long time. Express 8xi to the 10th and 4yi to the 19th and whatever in the simplest form, where I is the imaginary unit or root negative 1. We know that when I divide the power of the I by 4, if I get 0 remainder, it means just it's the real number as positive 1. If the remainder is 1, then it becomes I. If the remainder is 2, it becomes negative 1. And if the remainder is 3, it becomes negative I. So you just divide by 4 and see the remainder. Of course, 10 over 4, you get 8 and a remainder of 2. Again, suppose you have I to the whatever, 73. Okay? So how do you quickly find the remainder? You can say 73 divided by 4, right? So you get a fraction. The fraction is a quarter, which means 1. But even if you don't know that 0.25 is 1 and 0.5 is 2, just subtract the 18 and then multiply by 4 again, you get the remainder. So like 3 steps, yeah, but it really don't take anything. 113 divided by 4 is 28. Minus 28 times 4, you get 1. Okay, so it's really very simple. So I know that you can write, you don't have to, but you can write this as 10xi squared, which is negative 1, minus 4yi cubed, because 4 times 4 is 16 and the remainder is 3. This is already I cubed, so plus 2yi cubed. And this is I, so you just leave I. I squared is negative 1, so this is negative 8x. I cube is negative I. Notice both of them, so you can combine those. Negative 4y plus 2y is negative 2y I cube. But the I cube is negative I, so the negative times the negative is positive, and you get 2y I. minus 6xi. I can combine the x's together. In fact, I can combine negative 2x, and that would leave me with 4 minus 3i plus 2yi. I don't know which one is the simplest, but it's maybe you leave it like that, or you move the x's next to each other and the y's next to each other and the y by itself. I don't see what's the meaning. I think simplest, they just don't want a power of I. So either I or a real number, which again, another way to do it is to write the real number by itself, and then you combine and you say plus 2y minus 3xi. They didn't say in the like as a plus b I, but that would be like a plus bi. This is the real portion, this is the imaginary portion, or you leave it like that, or you combine the x's and the y's. But I think this is like the norm, is when we combine the real by themselves and the imaginary by themselves. Okay, the job satisfaction rating at a company is approximately normally distributed with a mean of 12. And roughly about 95% of the scores are between 8 and 16, or a difference of 4. What is the standard deviation of the distribution? Well, usually we say it's roughly 2. It's not exactly 2, it's 1.96, but we say it's 2 sigma. So 2 sigma equals 4. You divide by 2 both sides and you get sigma equals 2. That's it. Okay, next one. An angle theta is drawn in standard position and terminates in quadrant 3. Okay, so here are my quadrants. Here is quadrant 3. And this is theta. And it tells you cosine theta is negative root 10. Of course, negative because the x is negative. So over 10. So we know this is negative root 10. The radius is always positive. And they want you to determine the value of tan theta. Tan theta is opposite over adjacent. So I need to find the opposite. It's also negative. We know that because it's below. We don't care, but we would use the Pythagorean theorem. So if we call that y, we can say negative root 10 square plus y square equals 10 square. So negative square is positive, so you get 10 plus y square equals 100. Y square equals, and you subtract 10 from both sides, equals 90. And then you take the square root of both sides, y equals, we don't say plus or minus. Well, because we know it's below, so it's negative square root of 90. 90 is 9 times 10. Square root of 9 is 3, and that leaves root 10. So this is negative 3 root 10. Tan theta is opposite, which is negative 3 root 10, over adjacent, which is negative 10. The negative and the negative cancel, the root 10 and the root 10 cancel, and you get 3. So tan theta is 3. That should be pretty straightforward. The only thing is that you know that the tan is positive in the third quadrant, so I don't care even about the signs, but to be correct, you have to say in the x, the left is negative, in the y, bottom or down is negative. and you divide negative by negative to get positive. So whether you know it or not, the 10 would be positive in the third quadrant. Solve algebraically. They give you square root of x plus 5 minus x equals 3. And I told you to be worried whenever you are solving a square root equation or a natural log equation, because you are doing work that changes the original problem. Meaning, if I want to solve that, wouldn't I add x to both sides first? So I will get, that's fine so far, root x plus 5 equals 3 or x plus 3, doesn't matter. And then I'm going to square both sides. When you square, you will end up with two answers, not one. So you are introducing a new answer. One of the two will end up to be extraneous. So don't stop by finding the answer. You have to go back and check and see if they satisfy the original equation. This is a very important step. So the square and the square root cancel, you get x plus 5. 3 plus x or x plus 3 is the same thing. So you get x squared plus twice the first time the second plus the second square. And then I'm going to subtract x and 5. These cancel. And I'm going to write these on the left. So I get x squared plus 5x plus 4 equals 0. Now I need two numbers that multiply to 4 and add up to positive 5. And these are positive 4 and positive 1. Which means x equals negative 4 or x equals negative 1. Now, I go and substitute. If I substitute x equals negative 4, I get the square root of negative 4 plus 5, which is 1. So the left-hand side is 1. 3 plus x is 3 minus 4 is negative 1. So I cross this one out and I say extraneous. Why? That's the one I introduced. And then I substitute with negative 1 just for the sake of argument. So negative 1 plus 5 is 4. Square root of 4 is 2. 3 minus 1 is 2. So it's correct. So this is the only answer, x equals negative 1. Extremely important to check at the end in the square root and in the logarithmic equations. All right, use the geometric series formula to determine the total 30-year earnings for an employee whose first year salary is $42,000 and earns an annual raise, excuse me, of 3% rounded to the nearest $1,000. Okay, so I know that in the first year it's 42,000. In the second year is 42,000 times 1.03. In the third, it would be 42,103 square. So you see, second year is to the power of 1. Third year would be second power of 2. So in the last or the 30th year, it would be 103 to the 29th power. I can factor out the 42,000, and that leaves me with 1 plus 103 plus 103 square plus 103 to the 29th. That's a geometric series. I know the sum of that series is 103 to the n plus 1, meaning to the 30th, minus 1 over 103 minus 1, or simply divided by 0.03. It's 103 minus 1. And the top is 103 minus 1, but the 103 has a power of n plus 1. Okay? In one of the videos, I showed you something that I don't know if you remember or forget, I told you that if you have something like, we can use the one since we have one here, but let's say I have x to the n minus y to the n, whichever n is. So let's, in this case, I can say x to the 30 minus, and I would use y to the 30 equals, it's x minus y, and then you multiply x to the 29th plus x to the 28th, y to the first, plus till you are end up with y to the 29th. But if y is 1, you see that this would be x minus 1 times x to the 29 plus x to the 28 plus 1. And this would be, I use x to the 30 minus 1 to the 30. So you see that if you have this series, which is inverted, this inverted series is 1 plus x, which in this case is 1.03, 1.03 plus 1.03 squared plus 1.03 to the 29th. Its answer is x to the 30 minus 1, 103, divided by x minus 1, 103 minus 1. Okay? And it works for any power. So again, I think if you check that video in the math playlist. Unfortunately, the math playlist, I didn't move things around to say this is pre-calc, this is algebra 1, and so on and so forth. Anyway, so again, not to waste your time, it's 42,000 times the numerator is 103 to the 30 minus 1, and then I divide by 103 minus 1. So I get 1,998,000. They said to the nearest thousand. So that's it. Almost $2 million. Okay. So that's number 31. The last one in this section, and maybe I'll stop here and then do the last 4 in a new session. Maybe I'll do them today, but I will post them on a different, different time or different day, just to, so you have, small chunks every day instead of, because the last one was really long. Algebraically determine the solution to the equations 2x squared equals 2x minus 1 in simplest a plus bi for, oh, that's the form we were talking about in the i's and I to the 19 and whatever. Okay, so 2x squared equals 2x minus 1. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides and add 1 to both sides. So the right-hand side would be 0. The left-hand side would be 2x squared minus 2x plus 1 equals 0. Okay. They tell you a plus bi form, so don't try to factor, right? I know that it's not working. So I use the quadratic equation equals, so this is a, b is -2, and c is 1. So I say negative b, which is +2, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 4, minus 4ac, 4 times 2 times 1 is 8, over twice a, which is 4. So this is 2 plus or minus the square root of -4 over 4. -4, the square root of -4 is the square root of 4, which is 2, times the square root of -1, which is I. So this is 2 plus or minus 2I over 4. I can simplify top and bottom by 2. Yeah, I've seen people when you have like 2x and you divide by 2, you write 1x, which is not incorrect. I mean, it's fine, but when do we say 1x or 1y or 1a or 1 any times any variable? It just tells the person who's reading your work is that you are a novice or like you are not well versed in math. It's not wrong, but try to get rid of this habit. I mean, there's no reason to write 1 in front of I. So I can say 1. In fact, I can write it as 1 plus or minus I over 2. Or I can split it up and say x equals 1/2. Oops, I'm sorry. Equals already, x is already written. So 1/2 plus or minus I over 2. Or I can say x equals 1/2 plus I over 2. Or x equals 1/2 minus I over 2. They want it in a plus by. So a is 1/2. Okay. And someone would say, but they didn't say I over 1 over b. Okay. So over it's really a matter of taste. You can write x equals 1/2 plus 1/2 I, or x equals 1/2. And believe me, whatever you write, you will get the full credit. So you can write it like this, like that, like this, or like that. It's up to you. I don't write all of them. I'm saying you have the luxury of writing it in any way, shape, or form. So A and B, both of them are 1/2s, or A is 1/2 and B is -1/2 in this case. Okay, so yeah, that was already over 30 minutes, so that I think that's enough. I will keep working, but I will make that a different video. So maybe I'll post that tomorrow, Wednesday, for you. Okay, and as usual, I wish you all the best and hope to see you soon. Bye.